If you've been watching my channel, then you know that I cover Jacksonville a lot. In my time covering Jacksonville, there's been one gang that stands out as a little more wild than the rest. This gang is involved in multiple deadly wars throughout the city and has been accused of committing multiple broad daylight assassinations. In this video, we'll be discussing the gang 1200. But before we get into the video, please be sure to like and subscribe. 1200 is a hood/gang located on the east side of Jacksonville. They are home to smaller, well-known cliques such as S4C, Cuckoo Gang, Cut Circle, and the 187 Boyz. Some of their most known members include Spinner Benz, Wappa with the Choppa, J.Breezy, and Little Papa. They have beef throughout the city. Some of their main beefs include gangs from the 45th Street area such as 6 Block, made famous by Foolio, and A Block, which contains multiple members that claim 6 Block as well. 1200 also beefs with Head First, 5020, MBG, and YNR, standing for Young and Ruthless. 1200 is allied with ATK, NHG, T Block, and Keep Shootin'. As usual in these gang beefs, the tension between these crews would lead to bloodshed. As I mentioned earlier, some of 1200's main beefs are with Head First and the gangs from 45th Street. On October 5th, 2014, a party was being held and members of Head First and 45th Street were rumored to be there. Two 1200 members named Prosper and Tay allegedly heard about it and decided to slide. As they allegedly tried to gun down their ops, a shootout ensued. This shootout would end up going wrong for Prosper and Tay as they were both shot multiple times. Prosper, real name Prosper Johnson, was tragically pronounced dead at just 17 years old. Tay, real name Deontay Holsey, was tragically pronounced dead at just 20 years old. A member of 45th Street named Bobby Norris was tragically killed in the shootout as well at just 26 years old. Two women were injured in the shooting but ultimately survived. On September 24, 2015, a member of 1200 named Big Desi, real name Kim Desmond Varner, was standing outside of his father's house on the east side when he was shot multiple times. Over 28 evidence markers were placed on the scene, and Big Desi was tragically declared dead at just 25 years old. The police believe that a member of Head First by the name of Lenford was allegedly the gunman responsible for Big Desi's death. Lenford was considered one of Head First's main shooters and had a big reputation in the streets. Just days later, 1200 would avenge Big Desi's death. As I just mentioned, Lenford was considered Head First's top shooter. Just a day after allegedly killing Big Desi, Lenford would go sliding again. The police claimed that just one day after killing Big Desi, Lenford killed a 17-year-old named Danielle Williams in 1200 territory. That same night, Lenford would lose his life. Lenford was inside of a house when he got into a shootout with a member of 1200 nicknamed Big Chuck, real name Charles Eunice. During this shootout, both Lenford and Big Chuck were shot and were pronounced dead. Lenford was just 26 years old and Big Chuck was just 25 years old. It's rumored that Big Chuck was allegedly killed by Lenford's father during this shooting. Following this incident, the violence would unfortunately continue. Around 2015, a lot of people from 1200 claimed a group called the 187 Boyz. Some famous members of the 187 Boyz were the rappers Spinner Benz and Wappa with the Choppa. At the same time, many people from the 45th Street area claimed a group called PCE. PCE would later be taken down by RICO charges. It's believed that PCE and 187 were amicable towards one another until the fall of 2015, when a 187 member by the name of D Rose stole firearms from a PCE member named Crackerjack. This incident would eventually lead to a fight, and that fight would cause a war between the two groups. On November 14, 2015, a fight broke out at a Kodak Black concert between PCE members and members of the 187 Boyz. It's believed that a member of the 187 Boyz by the name of Shug was one of the people involved in this incident. Shortly after this incident, guns would be picked up and fists would be put down. On December 3, 2015, police were called to the scene near Franklin Street after reports of gunfire. Witnesses told detectives that a dark Toyota Camry drove by the intersection once, then returned and stopped. That's when a man rolled down a rear passenger window and fired a rifle. A neighbor said she counted 2 bursts of shots, the second one as many as 10. Witnesses said they saw people running in several directions as the Camry fled north on Franklin. Police said they found a blood trail leading from the front of the home to the rear. On the front porch, the police found a young man shot to death. The man was identified as a member of the 187 Boyz by the name of Shug, real name Avery McKnight. He was only 19 years old at the time of his death. 2 other men were with him during this incident and they were shot as well, however they survived their injuries. The shooters in this incident have never been caught, but there are rumors circulating across the internet that members of PCE were allegedly responsible. Following the death of Shug, 187 and PCE would go back and forth, shooting at each other over and over again. 3 weeks after Shug's death, a memorial was held for him on Christmas Day. A member of 187 by the name of Killer Cam testified that during the memorial, several 187 members were on Facebook taunting PCE and inviting PCE members to pull up. Within 10 minutes of posting the message, PCE members drove by and a shootout ensued. No one died in this shooting, but several people were injured, including a child. The crazy thing about this shootout is that according to the paperwork, the rapper Wappa with the Choppa is believed to be the one that accidentally shot and injured the child. About 2 weeks after this, on January 6, 2016, PCE member Cracker Jack's sister's house was shot up. 10 days after that shooting, on January 6, 2016, Killer Cam's house was shot up, and Cam would later go on to testify in court that Cracker Jack and another member of PCE named JB were the ones who did it. 2 weeks later, the unspeakable would happen. As I mentioned earlier, a child was shot during Shug's memorial. The mother of the child testified that at some point, she was notified that Wappa with the Choppa was the one that accidentally shot her daughter. After her daughter was released from the hospital, a PCE member by the name of Rondo allegedly inquired into killing Wappa's baby or somebody in Wappa's family in retaliation for the shooting. The woman declined the offer. Well, on January 29, 2016, PCE members Cracker Jack and JB would come after Wappa. On that day, the mother of baby Aiden, named Tamisha Brown, testified that she picked up her grandmother from work and drove to the grandmother's home on Spearing Street. Her grandmother sat in the back seat with Aiden. When Miss Brown pulled into the front yard of the house, she was greeted by her cousin Wappa with the Choppa. Soon after, a white vehicle pulled in behind her, and the occupants of that vehicle began to shoot at them. Several shots struck Mrs. Brown's vehicle. Miss Brown saw a dark-complexioned black male with a gun in the front seat of the white vehicle wearing a mask. A young, lighter-complexioned black male was leaning out of the rear passenger side shooting a handgun. Miss Brown could not identify the masked shooter, but she identified Cracker Jack as the shooter in the rear passenger side. Miss Brown drove away quickly to escape the gunfire. She then realized that her 22-month-old son, Aiden, had been shot. She immediately took him to the hospital, where tragically he would pass away from his injuries. He was less than 2 years old. Cracker Jack and JB would eventually be charged with this murder, and they were both sentenced to life in prison. On July 11, 2018, a member of 1200 named Corbin Johnson left his family home in someone's car that night. This would sadly be the last time he would be seen alive. About 1 year after being reported missing, Corbin's skeletal remains would be found in the woods, and the police would investigate it as a murder. The police still have no leads on what happened 5 years later. There are theories out there that he was kidnapped and killed in retaliation for a robbery, however, this has never been officially confirmed. On July 23, 2018, a member of 6 Block named Trey D and other 6 Block members such as Bibby, Mitch, and Kenny K decided to go to a yearly reunion held in 1200 territory. A few years prior, members of 1200 went to a reunion in the 45th Street area and taunted their ops, so 6 Block members wanted to do the same thing at the 1200 reunion. This was enemy territory, so they were taking a big risk by going there. Allegedly, an argument occurred between 6 Block and 1200 members when gunfire erupted. Witnesses claimed that they heard 25 to 30 gunshots as the crowd took off running. Once the gunfire came to an end, Trey D was discovered lying dead on the ground at just the age of 21. Police recovered 45 shell casings on the scene. It is widely believed that Trey D was allegedly killed by members of 1200, more specifically members of Cut Circle, and they would brag about killing him in songs and on social media. However, no one has ever been charged with this murder.
We was all during you and all of y'all face. Trey D tried that got his ass face.
We was all during you and all of y'all face. Trey D tried that got his ass face.
This was a big loss for 6 Block, as Trey D was a beloved member and was known for being one of 6 Block's main shooters. As a result, 6 Block members were hungry for revenge. Shortly after Trey D's death, two 1200 members named CP3 and Little Papa and one of their friends would all get shot in the same incident. They would all survive their injuries, but CP3 and the friend were seriously injured. It was widely believed that members of 6 Block were allegedly responsible for the shooting. Soon after this, 6 Block members would allegedly kill a beloved member of 1200. On August 24, 2018, a 6 Block member named Bibby, real name Adrian Gaynor, and another 6 Block member by the name of Kenny Caps, real name Robert Howard, attended a football game at Rains High School. During the football game, a fight broke out between them and members of 1200 that were there as well. All of them were kicked out of the game and were hanging around in the parking lot. Eventually, as tension built in the parking lot, gunfire erupted. As the gunfire came to an end, a member of 1200 named Spazz, real name Gerard Adams, was located deceased at the scene with a single gunshot wound. Another male victim and female victim were located with gunshot wounds and transported to local area hospitals for treatment. One of the victims originally stated to police that Kenny shot him. Upon further questioning, the victim admitted he never saw the suspect with a firearm, but provided details about an earlier dispute where the suspect told him somebody's going to die tonight. Two witnesses came forward and stated they saw Kenny with a firearm on the night of the incident. One of the witnesses stated that he saw an earlier confrontation during the football game between Spazz and Kenny. The witness claimed he saw Kenny approach Spazz after the football game in the courtyard. The witness was shown a photo spread and identified Kenny as being the person he saw retrieve a gun from his waistband and point the gun at Spazz. He did not see the suspect pull the trigger because he began to run once he saw the firearm, but heard multiple gunshots approximately 25 seconds later. A female eyewitness stated she saw Kenny, whom she personally knows, confront Spazz after the football game. She claimed that she saw the suspect retrieve a gun from his waistband and shoot Spazz. As she was fleeing the scene, she heard additional gunshots. She was shown a single photograph of Kenny and confirmed that he was the person she saw shoot Spazz. Multiple shell casings were recovered from the scene, and ballistic analysis indicated all the shell casings were fired from one firearm. Both of the witnesses would later go on to recant their statements that Kenny was the shooter, and they refused to testify. In fact, one of the witnesses was arrested for perjury for doing so. A member of 1200 named Will was accused of being one of the witnesses that snitched on Kenny. Kenny was charged with 1 count of second-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted murder for this incident. However, multiple years into his sentence, Kenny's charges were downgraded to manslaughter and his sentence was reduced to 5 years in prison. He was released earlier this year and has since started making music. On August 8, 2019, two members of 1200 named Leeke and John Ackafool were hanging out outside when a white van with black writing on the side pulled up beside them. The person in the van opened fire on them, and tragically John was shot in the head and declared dead at the scene at just 17 years old. Leeke, who was also 17 years old at the time, was shot 10 or 11 times but survived his injuries. Paperwork would later be released by the police, claiming that a member of 6 Block named Rasta was one of the primary suspects for this murder. According to the paperwork, a random inmate agreed to tell police information about John's murder. The inmate told police that Rasta had been bragging about killing John and that Rasta said he killed John because John and his friends allegedly robbed one of Rasta's trap houses. The inmate would later switch up his statement and refuse to wear a wire, so there wasn't enough evidence to charge Rasta. Rasta is currently serving 20 years in prison for attempted murder charges from a different incident. On August 12, 2019, 3 members of a gang called MBG named Von 5, Ace Cho, and Fredo Rockout were sitting in a parked vehicle on 1620 West 5th Street when they were shot. All 3 victims were transported to UF Health Hospital, where Ace Cho would tragically be pronounced dead at just 17 years old. The other 2 survived their injuries. Crime scene detectives recovered 7.62 shell casings from the scene. Von 5 was interviewed by the police and told them that he was set up by a female he had never met before. He said he was communicating with the female over Instagram and they agreed to meet up at the 1525 West 5th Street location. Shortly after acknowledging his arrival at the determined location over his Instagram account to the female, 2 male suspects began shooting into his vehicle from a vacant lot directly across from his location. The unknown female was identified and subsequently arrested. She admitted to participating, luring Von to the location to be shot, and she gave up the name of one of the shooters. The shooter was a 1200 member named Joey Adams. Joey is actually the blood brother of the 1200 member named Spazz that was killed a year prior to this. The police searched Joey's phone and found text messages of him admitting to trying to kill Vaughn and his friends because Vaughn had been dissing his brother Spazz. While searching his text messages, the police were able to find the second shooter. The second shooter was a member of 1200 named Creep. All 3 are currently locked up, and Joey and Creep are facing life in prison for Ace Cho's murder. One of the people that 1200 hates the most is the rapper Foolio, as he is the most well-known 6 Block member. On April 30th, 2020, Foolio's girlfriend at the time named Boobin Baby drove to the store in Foolio's car to buy snacks. As she was sitting at the light, she had her left hand on the steering wheel and she was holding her phone with her right hand. As she was waiting at the light, a shooter pulled up beside the car and opened fire. She was grazed in the head by a bullet and was shot in the knee and the hand. Thankfully, she was able to escape without any life-threatening injuries. Tragically, getting shot in the hand caused her to lose one of her fingers. It is widely believed that one of 1200's top shooters named Leeke was the one that allegedly shot Foolio's girlfriend that day. In fact, Foolio admitted in a song that Leeke was the one that shot his girlfriend.
Shot my car twice and hit my bitch, not leaking, rest in peace.
Shot my car twice and hit my bitch, not leaking, rest in peace.
On May 3rd, 2020, at around 2:30 p.m., a member of A Block named Petey, real name Antoine Williams, and 3 other men were sitting in a car on the 2100 block of Brooklyn Road when a gunman hopped out of a white Kia sedan and began shooting at them. Jacksonville Sheriff's Office said that a gunfire detection system picked up at least 33 shots fired during the incident. Investigators later said more than 50 total shots were fired. Tragically, Petey was shot and killed at just 18 years old, and the 3 other people with him that day were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The shooter hopped back into the white sedan and got away. It is widely rumored that he was allegedly killed by a member of 1200 named Leeke. However, this has never been officially confirmed. If you know anything about drill music, then you know that diss tracks are the staple of it. One rapper in particular dropped one of the most disrespectful songs in all of Jacksonville. The name of that rapper was Jumpout Squeeze, and on June 19th, 2020, he dropped a song called Op Shit. In that song, he disses nearly every single dead member of 1200. Prior to releasing the song, an attempt on Jumpout's life had already been made as he was shot previously, but he survived that incident. Getting shot didn't scare Jumpout or stop him from continuing to make diss records. Sadly, just 10 days after releasing his most disrespectful song, Jumpout would tragically be shot and killed while waiting in line to apply for a job at an Amazon warehouse. On June 29, 2020, Jumpout was standing in line with about 7 other applicants at the Amazon Fulfillment Center shortly before 2 p.m. when 2 men jumped out of a silver Hyundai sedan and took aim at him. The suspects ran directly up to him and indiscriminately began shooting handguns in his direction. A 29-year-old man near him was grazed in the arm, while the other 22-year-old victim was hit in the foot. Once the shooting stopped, the gunmen ran back to their car, driven by a third person, and fled the scene. Tragically, Jumpout would pass away in this incident at just the age of 20. It is believed that Leeke was allegedly one of the gunmen in this incident. In fact, in an Instagram post, a 1200 member by the name of Greenlight seemingly hinted that Leeke was allegedly responsible. On his Instagram story, someone asked him what his favorite memory with Leeke was. In response, he posted a video of Jumpout rapping, thus allegedly hinting that Leeke had something to do with it. On August 8, 2020, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office responded to a shooting call in the 1500 block of Milner Street. When officers arrived, they found a man nicknamed Sed Glizzy with a gunshot wound. First responders took him to the hospital where he was tragically pronounced dead. A member of 1200 named Spazz, real name Caleb Howard, was one of the 3 people arrested and charged with this murder. He is currently locked up for this, fighting first-degree murder charges and attempted robbery charges. On August 9, 2020, a member of A Block named Mookie, real name Marcus Jackson, was driving on the freeway on Interstate 95 and Dunn Avenue when a car pulled up next to his and opened fire. Mookie was hit and crashed his car. He was rushed to the hospital where he was tragically pronounced dead at just 22 years old. 1200 members diss him constantly and claim responsibility for his death in songs and on social media.
Drop 2 3s in the whip bills, me and green like Lil Leeke.
Drop 2 3s in the whip bills, me and green like Lil Leeke.
On September 2, 2020, at about 1:30 a.m., Leeke was driving a car at the intersection of Atlantic Boulevard and Monument Road when another car pulled up beside him and opened fire. Leake's car was riddled with bullets, and he was taken to a hospital with life-threatening injuries where he tragically passed away. It is widely rumored that an A Block/6 Block member by the name of Kurt was allegedly one of the gunmen responsible for the death of Leeke. Kurt is the brother of Petey, and people believe that he allegedly killed Leeke as an act of revenge. However, this has never been officially confirmed. Kurt is currently locked up, fighting attempted murder charges from a different incident. Leeke was a very beloved member of 1200, so payback was guaranteed. A member of 6 Block named Spazz2x would repeatedly diss Leeke on social media and in songs. About 2.5 months after the death of Leeke, Spazz2x would be shot and killed. On November 19, 2020, Jacksonville Sheriff's Office were called to investigate a shooting in the Moncrief neighborhood. The shooting occurred at the Hilltop Village Apartments, which is known to be the primary area where members of 6 Block are from. Officers in Jacksonville Fire Rescue responded to the area for a reported shooting around 7:45 p.m. Upon arrival, Spazz2x was found with at least 1 gunshot wound. The police said he died at the scene. There are many rumors going around surrounding his death. Some believe that he was allegedly killed by members of 1200. Members of 1200 would claim responsibility for his death. Meanwhile, a famous rapper from 6 Block by the name of K Shorty said that Spazz2x was killed by a baser, which is another word for a crackhead. To this day, nothing has been officially confirmed, and the person or people responsible have not been caught. On the nights between February 20th and February 21st, 2021, 2 1200 members named Meechy and B5 were shot and killed. Meechy and B5 were OGs in 1200 and were involved in the management that represented the rappers from 1200. In fact, Meechy was considered the boss. Meechy and B5 were in Orlando for a Lil Durk concert that was happening that night. Unbeknownst to them, multiple members of 6 Block were allegedly there as well. After the concert, Meechy and B5 were driving to Wendy's when a car pulled up next to them and opened fire. Meechy and B5 were both shot multiple times, and their car crashed into a bus stop near a Wendy's next to the intersection of East Colonial Drive and Brumby Avenue. Both of them were declared dead at the scene. It is widely believed that members of 6 Block were responsible for this incident, and they will claim responsibility in songs and on social media. On September 28, 2021, famous 1200 rapper Spinna Benz was driving in a car with a member of 1200 named Greenlight and another member of 1200 named NoFace. They were sitting in a Dodge Challenger outside a Raceway gas station on Lenox Avenue when a black Range Rover Evoque pulled up and people inside opened fire on them. Spinna Benz and Greenlight ran into the gas station, but NoFace was left behind. The Range Rover sped off. Spinna Benz and Greenlight went back to the Dodge Challenger and drove to the emergency room. NoFace was shot in the head and would tragically be pronounced dead in the hospital. Jacksonville police investigators were on the lookout for the black Range Rover Evoque. The following day, JSO's gang unit spotted a similar vehicle while surveilling the Woodland Acres community. Officers pursued the Range Rover, which sped off. It crashed into a pole, and the occupants exited the vehicle and attempted to run off. Investigators caught them. They were identified as 6 Block members Tufo, K Shorty, and LaCracka. Police said they found spent shell casings in the Range Rover. K Shorty and Tufo are charged with second-degree murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, and gun possession by a convicted felon. LaCracka was charged with resisting arrest and is currently locked up on a gun charge from a different incident. Following NoFace's death, 1200 would allegedly start getting payback. On January 15, 2022, 3 people were shot on Brentwood Avenue near Gulf Fair Boulevard. The people that were shot were members of a clique consisting primarily of 6 Block and A Block members called WAWG. One of the people shot was named Andre James, and he would tragically be pronounced dead at just 20 years old. People claim that Dre was an innocent civilian, but unfortunately, he got caught up in the crossfire of the war in Jacksonville due to his friendship with WAWG members. Members of 1200 were allegedly responsible for this murder. On January 28, 2022, a member of A Block named Mitch, real name LaShawn Hall, was shot and killed. Before it was even publicly announced that he was dead, members of 1200 went on Instagram Live and started celebrating and self-snitching like crazy.
Yo, my car. Hey man, new op pack. Let's see if this bitch ass dead. Let's see if this bitch ass dead. You talking about now? You dead, y'all.
Hold my phone for that down.
Get back, gang. Get back, gang. 2 back to back. Talking about another nigga gonna die. Where he at?
Where he at?
In the sky.
In the sky.
135.
135.
Now you up there with your best friend, baby. I gotta go to the bank. I gotta go to the bank.
That's 2 back back, James. Hey, James, that's 2 back back now.
Yeah.
Hey, what that boy DJ Khaled say?
Another one.
Another one. Another one. The city's sad right now. The city's sad right now. Wait till y'all find out who this Pike is,
Yeah, wait till y'all
I got
find
some
out.
big J for him.
I pray this don't get up. I pray this get
I
up.
pray he get up.
Wait till y'all find out.
The war in Jacksonville is still going on till this day and has shown no sign of slowing down. 1200 is right in the center of it, and they continue to diss their ops in every song that they make. Let me know what you guys think about this situation in the comment section, and please be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.